Coming to you live once again, it's your boy Wex breaking the Lawson with the weekly AEW Dynamite review. But before we get into the AEW review, I want to mention one thing. I want you to check out the Kayfabe Comparisons podcast. It's available on all major platforms. Me and my boy Jesse Baker are reoccurring guests, and this Saturday at 9 a.m. there's a new episode featuring us doing an AEW Full Gear comparison going up against WWE's Vengeance 2005. So if you're interested in that, might want to go check it out, give it a follow. Hosted by your boy Daniel Schaefer, Mr. Know-It-All himself. It's run there pretty frequently, so if you enjoy this, you might enjoy that, so give it a check out.
Pin comment, dog.
We'll do that. Check it out. Check it out, buddy. All right, this week's AEW Dynamite started off with Team FTW, Team Taz, making their way down to the ring, and Taz was full of piss and vinegar. He was looking all hype, all hot. He got on the mic and he warned Cody and Darby Allin of an ass kicking, and saw Darby sitting up in the stands and was like, "You little But right after he cut his little promo, we got right into the first match of the night. The Machine, Brian Cage versus Matt Sydal. The match started off pretty solid. It was a nice back and forth between the two, and Matt Sydal, instead of going with this traditional high-flying and submission offense, he was rather going for strikes. Very hard strikes, well-placed strikes, but it still didn't seem to be enough because the strength of Brian Cage was just too much for him to overcome. He did, however, gained a little bit of momentum and hit a nice meteor from the outside onto the stage, and then he also hit a nice reversal. All right. Matt Sydal reversed a big powerbomb Rana to the pin for a very close 2 count. Matt Sydal climbs to the top rope, goes for like a front flip, and Cage catches him in a suplex, takes him to the drill claw. 1, 2, 3, the Machine wins. After a very dismal debut for Matt Sydal, aka I got held up in Japan for about 9 weeks for trying to smuggle weed over there, which I know is probably a bad idea. He keeps having loss after loss after loss. Not looking too hot for him so far in his AEW venture. Then after the match, they start talking shit, and Stark says the FTW Revolution will be televised and they're coming for that TNT championship. And the biggest pompous asshole of all of AEW, Cody Rhodes, makes his way down to the ring for his little promo of the night, his little spot to try to put himself over, but actually, he started off putting everybody else over. He started to put over Darby Allin, and then he said he wasn't really interested in a rematch right now and how he really wanted to see MJF, but then he got interrupted.
Fucking son of a bitch.
By Jade Cargill. I think she's been on AEW Dark, she's been in the crowd before, but she basically comes out, cuts a promo, talks about how he has a little tiny pecker, and says you're not really the giant killer and you're a liar, and basically says Shaq's gonna come kick his ass.
Shaq the Shaq?
Yeah, Shaq. Yeah, Shaq is coming for Cody's little pecker. And then right after that, after she's talking shit about the little peck, Brandy comes out because I guess she wants to try to vouch about how the pecker isn't that small. And she's like, "You bitch, fuck, bitch, shit, this and that." And then, yeah, whatever. And then as Cody's distracted, Brian Cage comes from behind, Team Taz starts laying him out. Then Darby Allin comes and makes the save, and then basically as the segment's going off of the air, like before as it's going to commercial, Will Hobbs comes out at the last second swinging a chair and shit. Like, it was very, I don't know if he missed his cue or what happened, but he came out at the very last minute, basically after all the heels were already gone. And next up, we get backstage with Alex Marquez, as Jericho or MJF called him. I can't remember which one, but I like that. We basically get an interview with John Moxley, and he recaps basically what happened at the pay-per-view. He starts putting over the fans and putting over the match and talking about how he's just basically ready for Omega and he's a fighting champion and he's ready to go. And he tells Kenny good luck. The match is set for December the 2nd on AEW Dynamite. That's going to be a fucking badass match. They're treating us to Kenny Omega championship match on Dynamite. Gonna get some bones.
Shia LaBeouf in this bitch.
Shia LaBeouf. There you go, kitty. Holy shit, we got what I would say is probably the most entertaining match of the night. I wouldn't say the best match, but it was a goddamn bloody brawl. The bunkhouse match between the Butcher and the Blade and the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall. And if you don't know what a bunkhouse match is, it's an old WCW concept, an old NWA Jim Crockett Promotions concept that Dusty Rhodes used to love. It involves hay and bunkhouse. You get the little Jason Hunt fake rope type gimmick stuff. There's no fucking rules in a bunkhouse match. This shit starts off crazy and wild, and the Butcher and the Blade basically take control from the beginning, and QT Marshall gets double J'd over the top of the head with a guitar. You get a nice little shout out from JR about downtown Nashville. JR said, "This is a crazy ass match." Actually, I don't know if he actually said that. Don't quote me. As we go into the break, they're just basically whooping that ass on Dustin and QT Marshall. And then when we come back from the picture-in-picture, we get a really nice Dusty Rhodes tribute from Dustin with the double bird and the elbow. Get the old flip, flop, and fly. And eventually the Natural Nightmares take control, and then Dustin Rhodes takes the Butcher to the top of the stage and hits him with a bulldog off the stage through some plywood shit. I don't know how bad that actually hurt, but they were down. Spot of the match, maybe even spot of the night, QT Marshall climbs the goddamn huge ladder and goes all the way from the very top to an elbow drop right in the fucking sternum of the Blade. And then there's a little spot where they were supposed to knock down Allie the Bunny and she falls through the table. It was just terrible production at that point. Whoever's in the truck wasn't at the right camera and you could barely see it, and they showed her like they cut after she was already through the table. Somebody fucked up in the truck that time. Lonnie, he's real good. He's been doing it since '93. After the big production fuck up, Dustin hits Blade with the cowbell, QT Marshall hits the diamond cutter. 1, 2, 3, the Natural Nightmares take home the victory. The Big V. Actually, they take home the dub. Dub for Wex. No, I'm just... Okay. Next up, we got a solid little Matt Hardy promo, basically recounting the match and his feud with Sammy Guevara and basically how he finally had to put an end to everything. He said he went into this match fucking basically hating Sammy Guevara, but he left earning his respect, and he said him beating him is gonna do something for his career. This is gonna bolster his career. He said, Sammy, you will become a bigger star, and I hope you will not squander this opportunity. The moment we've all been waiting for since Full Gear, the Inner Circle Introduction 2020 with your boy MJF and his bodyguard Wardlow. Judas in my mind. The Inner Circle hits the ring, and there's one thing that I've noticed, that everybody noticed. Sammy Guevara's missing, and everyone can't figure out where the fuck is Sammy Guevara. He should have been out there. They finally introduce MJF and Wardlow as the newest members of the Inner Circle, and then MJF gets up to the podium to make his speech. He says real men cry, and that his dad gave him a small loan of $1 million to help get him on his feet and get him where he is here. To help get him where he is today. Then MJF decided he's gonna read a little poetry. He pulls out a little piece of paper, and then he begins to read. And all he does is basically recite a Drake song, straight up, from top to bottom. He recites the lyrics to a Drake song. Ortiz calls him out, and he's just like, what the that's a Drake song. And then he goes, I don't know who Drake is, but I started from the bottom and now I'm here. I'm in the Inner Circle, baby. And then he gives everybody tickets to Vegas, and he says, we're going to Vegas. And it's Chris Jericho's birthday. They play a happy birthday. They celebrate. It's a good time. The Inner Circle and the boys are going to Vegas, baby. My favorite tag team, the Young Bucks, are up next with a little interview segment from Marvez. They're a little beat up from their big match they had, and they originally were going to compete this week, but they're just so beat up and they weren't cleared. Specifically, Matt Jackson was not cleared to compete because of his ankle. The Bucks talk about how they went through hell, how it was the biggest win of their career, the biggest accomplishment they could achieve. They said they're not ready for FTR right now. They want new competition, and they announced that next week on AEW Dynamite, the Young Bucks going one-on-one with Top Flight. And if you haven't seen Top Flight wrestle on AEW Dark or any other various indie promotions, you should check them out. This is gonna be a hell of a match. Ain't no mud show! Oh, and the Young Bucks apologize for kicking Marvez. A match they've been promoting, a little feud, for about 2 to 3 weeks now, maybe even a solid month. We finally get to see it. Scorpio Sky versus Shawn Spears. Basically, the main part of this feud they've been promoting is that Shawn Spears is pissed off that Scorpio Sky stole his spotlight, stole his thunder. And they basically are promoting on commentary how both these guys have really good records, 15-2 from Spears, 9-2 from Scorpio Sky. I mean, this match was solid work rate, stiff strikes. Scorpio Sky actually not doing his normal traditional high flying. He's basically going strikes, and at one point, he even bit Spears on the head, which is not very Sky-like. There was a huge spot on the outside with the steel steps where Spears backdrop suplex Scorpio Sky onto it, and we got the classic JR line, the sickening thud of the steel on the human body, or something of that variation, but you know what line I'm talking about. That's that classic JR. And before you know it, it was inevitable. Tully Blanchard's old ass got up there, distracted the ref, tossed him the slug, big right hand, 1, 2, 3, Shawn Spears is your winner. Tully Blanchard's old ass, oh my god, he's even wearing Skechers. Like, could it be any more obvious? Is he advertising? Did he get a sponsorship? It's like the perfect demo. Maybe that this was their idea to appeal to that over 50 demo that they can't reach every week. They just said, we're gonna put Spears out there, put him in the Skechers, you know, get him right out there in the crowd so we can get that fucking demo hit. Alright, up next we got a Kenny Omega interview, and basically Alex Marvez had to run him down because it was originally scheduled with Dasha Gonzalez, and she said, I don't know where Kenny went. And Alex Marvez is out of shape ass, gives a little jog, and I says, hey, Kenny. And then Kenny decides, I guess I'll stop and talk to you. And Kenny says, basically, he wants his #1 spot back. He's coming to reclaim and show everybody who he is. The best bout machine, the cleaner, the guy he was in Japan, the guy everyone knows he can be. And he said that, Mox, I'm coming for you December 2nd, and I can't wait, like. I hope Kenny Omega fucks him up because I'm tired of Jon Moxley. Unless he's doing deathmatch bullshit, I really don't care. So Kenny Omega, let's get some good old 5-star fucking classic matches like we used to see. Come on now. And next up, your traditional AEW Women's Match of the Week. But actually, this time, it wasn't a squash match, and it didn't involve Nyla Rose or Hikaru Shida, which was very surprising to me. This was surprisingly a pretty good match. I really liked the stuff Tay Conti was doing with all the different judo throws. That was very innovative. You don't see much offense like that traditionally. We had a really nice near fall on a solid stunner from Red Velvet where she sat all the way down on it. As the ref is distracted, Anna Jay tries to slide in the chair, but Tay Conti says, no, I'm not gonna do that Dark Order heel bullshit. So she says, I'm gonna win the right way. So before you know it, by the time she gets back in the ring, takes the wrist, rolls through, big pump kick, 1, 2, 3, your winner is Tay Conti.
Woo! Bunda, baby.
The Dark Order looms upon the ramp as they're heavily recruiting that bunda, or what is that my buddy says. So next up, we finally get to see where Sammy Guevara was. Apparently, he was at the beach because MJF didn't send the second email that everybody else in the inner circle seemed to get. And Sammy's not a dumbass. He's fucking pissed. Even though he got his ticket to Vegas, he's visibly heated, and this shit's about to blow over. It's gonna implode at some point, and mark my words, once the big fight eventually happens with MJF and Sammy Guevara, that's going to be the beginning of his babyface run in AEW. Mark my words, you heard it here first. And your main event of the night, one of the most anticipated matchups in a while, Penta El Cero Miedo versus Fenix Part 2. But before the match starts, Eddie Kingston opens up with a little promo basically recapping of what happened with him at Full Gear, losing to Jon Moxley, and basically introducing his best friend and Fenix in the main event. After he introduces him, he heads his ass over onto commentary. And before this match started, my first thought was, let's please hope that no one dies after that last match, after that scary bump to the top of Fenix's head. And basically this match was tons of head kicks, tons of roll-ups, tons of reversals, just, it's brother versus brother. They know every move they're gonna do to each other, so they kind of basically work that dynamic from the last match that you kind of have to work with the brother versus brother. But then it changed. It went from the last match, Pentagon wanting to protect his younger brother. This time, he was just basically wanting to brutalize his brother. At one point, started trying to rip off his mask, which, in the luchador tradition, is just pure disrespect. You don't rip someone's mask off. We saw some really big spots in this match, like a really nice tornado spin tope from Fenix over the top onto Penta on the outside, and then Penta with this like reverse front flip DDT. I don't know what to call it, but it was fucking sick. But before you knew it, Penta took full control when he hit a package pile driver onto the apron. Soon after that, Penta hit the Panama Sunrise off the apron onto the outside, and then back into the ring, hit another package pile driver for good measure, and 1, 2, 3, your winner. Now 1-1 with his brother Fenix, the winner, Penta El Cero Miedo. And the whole time on this match on commentary, Eddie Kingston was stirring the pot, stirring it up real good. He was just like, I thought that Pentagon had a better chance of beating Kenny Omega, in all honesty. I think he's better, and just kept stirring the pot, and then out of nowhere, we heard some familiar music, and the one and only, the bastard, Pac, whatever the fuck you want to call him. He's back and he's pissed off, and just like I said last week, when you heard that little promo, you heard stuff in his head, you heard Eddie Kingston, you heard the whole family thing. I said, he's coming for Eddie Kingston, and what do you know? That motherfucker went straight for the out-of-shape badass talker Eddie Kingston. They put over the Eddie Kingston can't fight, so the refs are trying to break him up. Pac's fucking pissed, he's ready to kick his ass, and then they make an announcement from Tony Khan that next week Pac is gonna take on the blade of Eddie Kingston's family. For an AEW Fallout show to a pay-per-view, probably one of the best pay-per-views they've ever put on, I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed. Some of the main stuff that I wanted to see continue, the Young Bucks. We got a little measly interview. Kenny Omega, a half-ass walking away interview. Hangman Adam Page, which we didn't even see. Like, I don't know what's next for him. Is he all alone with his whiskey? Did he quit drinking? Is he going to rehab? Is he worse off? Is he in the gutter? I don't know. Just because of that, my rating is going to be just a little bit lower than normal. But overall, we did get some good storyline progression of some other feuds We got the big return of Pac, and possibly a new women's feud that doesn't involve Shida, Nyla Rose, or Riho. So this week's AEW Dynamite, I'm gonna give a 3.5 out of 5 to Sweet.